Okay, so this kapitel 84, we have done it before, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, according to my notes. I did first start preparing it. As I told you, I chose my parents to kapitla because it was their birthday last week. And then when I was about a third of the way through, I said, I must go look in my notes because some of it is familiar. Thank God, some of it is familiar. And yeah, so we have done it before, but I think there's a lot of, at least half of it is new, so whatever. So it's 84. It begins. Lam Natseach al Hagitis livne Kairach Mizmor. For the conductor on the Gittis by the son, a Mizmor by the sons of Kairach. So that's the introduction, telling us that it's al Hagitis. The instructions for the musicians is to use, simple explanation, the gittis, a particular musical instrument called the gittis. Most of the Mefarshim say that it's not a specific musical instrument, but that the city of Gat was a city which one of their things was they had a big musical instrument factory or whatever. They made all different kinds of musical instruments. And that was the instruction to the conductor: use one of the instruments that comes from this place, Gat. Other explanations say that it just is that David HaMelech was in this place called Gat at the time that he worked on this capital of Tehilim. And another opinion is that Gat means a wine press. And the reason it begins, David HaMelech begins by saying Al Hagitis, is because the capital is going to speak about times when Jews are crushed, okay, when they are, and how we should feel, and what he's asking of Hashem, and he's saying when the Yidden are Al Hagitis, when they're on the wine press, these are the thoughts, these are the prayers. These are the hopes that they should have. So that's the concept of al hagitis, and then it also attributes this capital of Tehilim to the sons of Kairach. Lam Natseach livnei Kairach. This to the sons of Kairach. So you do know that you do remember that there's a whole lot of chapters of Tehilim that were written by the sons of Kairach. I'm not going into the whole history of it, but just to remind you in one or two sentences, Kairach's sons first joined him in their revolution against Moshe, and when the earth opened up and they were about to be swallowed by the earth, they did this last minute of teshuvah, and they caught onto the edges of the hole. And there they remained shouting, Moshe Emes, V'terasa Emes, for many, many years until they were properly forgiven. And one of the things that they did during that time was write a few chapters of Tehilim. This one is one of them. So this is the concept of Livnei Kairach. And one of the main themes, it's actually, this chapter is divided into 3 themes, but one of the main themes is this passionate desire to connect with Hashem. Somehow, a need to make a connection with God. And that's what he speaks about straight out in the beginning. Starts off by saying, Ma yedidos mishkaresecha Hashem tzvakos. How beloved are your dwellings, Hashem, Hashem Tzvakos, Hashem who rules the upper worlds as well. And immediately all the commentaries say, what does it mean when he says Ma yedidot? It says it's a rhetorical question. How much I wish for this yedidus, for this connection. My soul just yearns to connect with you, Hashem. The Gemara speaks about this word yedidut. So we translate it as a beloved. Yedid is a beloved, or Yedid could be a friend. I was struggling with this concept of wishing to be Hashem's friend. I was making my husband a little bit mad about it last night because do you want to be Hashem's friend? Does anyone want to be Hashem's friend? Are we? What does it mean to be Hashem's friend? And I think one of the reasons that it like really got me is there was a man who we knew well who always used to call himself the Rebbe's friend, and it made my father mad. My father was always like, "What does it mean he's the Rebbe's friend? Who does he think he is? Is the Rebbe's friend?" And towards the end of my father's life, we found a letter that the Rebbe wrote to Rabbi Chazdan, and in it he told him to ask my father something, and he said, "My good friend Rabbi Koppelbacher." So we went to tell my father that he is the Rebbe's friend, whether he likes it or not. And he said, "I am not the Rebbe's friend. I am a chassid." And so we spent many hours debating what is the difference between being the Rebbe's friend or the Rebbe's chassid. And this is what I spent time with last night, making my husband a little mad. Does anyone want to be God's friend? Or do we just want to be connected to God, be his people on earth, let him treat us nicely, let him give us the blessings that we need, but not consider ourselves in a casual relationship with God, being his friend. So this is the concept of what David HaMelech is saying over here. My yedidus mishkanei secha. How so nice to be your friend, Hashem. That's what it seems. And so I spent a lot of time just on this pasuk, trying to figure out what does it mean to be Hashem's friend. So first looking at the word yedid, and seeing the Gemara tells us that there are 4 different people who Hashem refers to as yedid. Avraham, Hashem calls him my friend, my yedid. We found that actually in Sefer Yirmiyahu. The Yidden, the Jews, are called Yedidim, friends of Hashem, so to speak. Binyamin, it's written very closely, very clearly about Binyamin. It says, Binyamin Amar, Yedid Hashem, Yishkein Lavetach. Binyamin, you are Yedid Hashem, friend of Hashem. And Shlomo Melech, his other name was Yedidia. So, do we want to be Hashem's friend? And the Al-Sheikh speaks quite a bit about this, and he says our purpose in this world is to bring godliness into this world, and we want Hashem with us. And how do we want Hashem? And so the Al-Sheikh says, don't translate Yedid as a friend, but rather as a beloved. We want to love Hashem, we want to be able to love Hashem, and we want Hashem to love us. And that's the relationship of Yedid, of being a Yedid. And it's interesting, like if you know which books of Tehilim you're using, but so the one that I picked up before the shir to follow in while I'm giving this shir, it translates straight away, my Yedidus Mishkanei Secha, how beloved. Okay, so this is the feeling that we should be getting from David HaMelech, my Yedidus Mishkanei Secha, I want to be your beloved, Hashem. And we're going to see how he expresses this even more and more and more, this yearning to be Hashem's beloved. When it speaks about Mishkanei Secha, your dwelling places, so we've so far only spoken about it as a high spiritual concept of God living in this world with us, yeah? But the commentaries tell us that Mishkanei Secha, the dwelling places of Hashem, is not only a general comment about this world, that Hashem is dwelling in this world, but all the specific places that are made for Hashem to dwell in, most specifically talking about shuls, schools, base medrash, places of Torah learning. And the commentaries tell us that the message that David HaMelech is giving us, when you walk into such a place, you should feel a connection and a love for Hashem. And so this is the concept of my Yedidus Mishkanei Secha, how beloved is your your places that are made specially for you. Another opinion, so the commentaries tell us, is that the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkanos, the dwelling places of Hashem, they caused a feeling of yedidus among the people, which means that they caused love and avas Yisrael to happen between the Jews. And commentaries tell us that when the Yidden came to the Beis Hamikdash, even if they arrived there at the same time as someone who they were not on good terms with, or maybe even ones they were on bad terms with, just by the fact that they were in the Beis Hamikdash, they came out united, and there was peace and there was unity. And David HaMelech comments about that. He says, "My Yedidus, how beloved is that, that it causes that level of Yedidus, of friendship." And then he goes further and he explains how much he wants this closeness with Hashem. He says, "Nichsafa v'gam kalsa nafshi." I'm going to translate it simply first. My soul yearns and it aches, it desires lachatzreis Hashem, to be in Hashem's courtyards. Libi uvesari, my heart and my flesh, Yerananu el chai, cry out for this living God. So this first part of the sentence, nichsafa v'gam kalsa nafshi, my soul yearns, my soul aches to connect with you. This is hectic, okay? Because if you understand what kalus hanefesh is when you realize, and this is a very brief surface explanation, but kalus hanefesh is when a person realizes how great Hashem is, and they so desire to connect with Hashem and His greatness that their soul leaves them. Right? So one of the big examples in the Torah of kalus hanefesh is when Yitzchak was about to be shechted, and he realized that he's about to die, and he's going up to Hashem, and he was so desiring of this connection with Hashem that the Torah tells us his soul left him and he died, even though Avraham didn't touch him with a knife. He was never shechted. So again, I was bothering my husband last night, and I said, is that what we want? Do we want kalus hanefesh? Are we looking for reaching this level of desire with Hashem that we can't live in this world? That's what it appears from what David HaMelech is saying. Nichsafa v'gam kalsa nafshi. I so yearn, I so desire to connect with you, Hashem, that I don't know how to be human with it. I don't know how to I don't know how to just be ordinary with it. I don't know how to be a physical human being in this world. And then immediately what he does after that is he explains to us how. He says, Libi uvesari. So Libi, my heart wants to be with you. That's this concept of kalus hanefesh, desiring more than anything physical to be close to Hashem. I don't need to live in this world. I don't need to have food. I don't need to have money. I don't need anything. I just want to connect with you, Hashem. And that's not so realistic, even for a David HaMelech. And so he says, uvesari, and my flesh. I'm a human being. I live in this world. I need to live in this world, and I need to use this world and connect to Hashem while I'm a human being in this world. And that's the concept of Yerananu el Hashem. It makes me happy when I'm a human being, a physical person in this world, and I can connect to Hashem. Then I'm happy, and I'm happy because I'm connecting. And David HaMelech shows us in this pasuk how ordinary people have to connect with Hashem. He says, where do I have this big yearning? Lachatzreis Hashem, the courtyards of Hashem. So we know that only certain people could go into the Beis Hamikdash itself. And if you were a Kohen or even a Kohen Gadol, you could go into the Holy of Holies. But ordinary people, every single day, ordinary people could come into the courtyards of Hashem. And that's what David HaMelech is telling us. Don't try and be a kalus hanefesh person. Don't try and be someone who gives up all physical things to connect with Hashem. You need to come into the courtyards of Hashem. You need to come in with your flesh and blood and bones and desires and your money and your clothes and your everything, And that way of connecting to Hashem, Yerananu El Chai, this will make you happy, and you'll be able to call out to Hashem, the God. And he explains further. He carries on and he says, Gam tzipor matzavayis, even a bird has found a house. Udror kain la, and a dror, which we'll explain, has a nest. Asher shasa efrecheha esmis b'chaisecha, she settles her young near the altar. Hashem tzvakais malki v'elaikai. Hashem, the God of hosts, is my God. He's my king and my God. So the first picture that he gives us is Gam Tzipor, is also about the bird. So all the different commentaries speak about this concept of the bird. Most famously, Yidden are compared to birds. So you may have heard the song over the years, The Little Bird is Calling, right? Speaking about the Jewish people in Galus, and we calling out to Hashem to take us back. Okay, give us back Yerushalayim, give us Beis Hamikdash again. That's the concept of the bird. The Medrash says, sorry, that what David HaMelech is saying to Hashem, what he's calling out to Hashem in his yearning to connect, he's saying, even a bird can find its place near the Beis Hamikdash, and only us can't find in Eretz Yisrael a place to live, a Beis Hamikdash, an ability to give sacrifices. And so the Medrash translates this pasuk, or understands this pasuk, as part of David's yearning, saying, Hashem, why is it that even the little bird can go and make his nest on the top of the Kaisel, or somewhere on the walls of Yerushalayim, wherever it wants, and we are still looking, we still trying. And the Ibn Ezra carries on with the Medrash like that and says, this is the horror of Galus. That the birds, if you go to Israel now, you'll see that the birds found a place for themselves, and we still struggling. And nobody says the bird can't be there, and we still struggling. And says the Ibn Ezra, this is David HaMelech's continued calling out to Hashem to connect with him. This little bird, the commentaries tell us, this tzipor, is a bird that gets up early in the morning, no matter how hard the day before was. It's a bird that gets up early in the morning, even if it didn't have the best night. Okay, I often wonder when there's like a big storm in Johannesburg and there's wind and rain. Where are the birds? What are they doing now? Are they sleeping? Are they holding on for their lives into the trees? And even if the birds had that horrible night, hard day yesterday, as soon as the sun comes up, they start twittering, singing, facing the next day, no matter what. Okay, singing no matter what. And this is also a lesson that David HaMelech is giving us. He's saying, while we're in Galus, there might be hard days, there might be difficult nights, but we are birds. Okay, Gam tzipor matzabayis. We must get up as soon as the sun comes out and sing again, no matter what. He mentions one bird by name, the dror. Some commentaries translate that as a swallow. The other commentaries explain that the dror was it is a bird. Apparently in Spain they call it the songbird. It's a bird that sings beautifully, but not when it's captured. So if you catch a dror and you put him in a cage, it will not sing. And says that that's why David HaMelech used this name of the bird. Said that the dror, even while things were hard, the dror has now found itself a nest. It's found itself a place to sing, which is what David HaMelech was asking for, a place for us to sing as well. And then gives us this picture of Asher Shasai for she settles her young next to your altars, and there are two opposite explanations for that. The one that comes from the Al-Sheikh says that the birds so much wanted, the pigeons so much wanted that their offspring should be used as sacrifices in the Beis Hamikdash, that they used to take their like make nests and have eggs and sit there waiting for their eggs to hatch right next to the Mizbeach. So the Kohanim would see it and they would be able to use those birds in service of Hashem. That's the one opinion. And then, as I said, there's an opposite opinion, which says that the birds were never allowed to nest right next to the Mizbeach, because imagine the mess. So they the birds would try to build their nests near the Mizbeach, and they couldn't. They weren't. They were chased away from there. And then when a bird is chased away from the place, it comes right back. So I don't know if you've noticed that. I remember that when we were living in our house in Saxonville, we had a real problem with pigeons, and we would chase them away, and the gardener would move their nests and whatever before they made eggs. And sure enough, in the next couple of days, the pigeons were back, and they were building their nests in exactly the same places again. And so the commentaries, that's how we have to feel about the service of Hashem. If we get chased away once, if we have one trouble of galus, if we have another trouble of galus, we must just come back and try again. Be determined to be near, to be in the chatzros of Hashem. It continues with a pasuk that we know well. It says, "Ashrei yoshev esecha." Happy are those who live in your household. They will keep on praising you. So this pasuk, which we actually interestingly attach to capital 1, I think it's 135, 145, which is the well-known chapter of Tehilim, which we say, the chapter of Asher Yoshev Yisecha, and it goes, we say it as part of our davening every day. Actually does not begin with the pasuk Ashrei. The pasuk Ashrei begins here in this capital, and and then it's attached to chapter 145, and funnily we call that whole chapter, we call it Ashrei, even though it does not begin with the words Ashrei, and that I can't explain to you why. So why? What is this? Ashrei Yoshev Esecha. Happy are those who sit in your house. They will keep on praising you. So in this chapter of Tehilim, Pei Daled, there are 3 times that it says Ashrei, which hints to us that we should say Ashrei 3 times a day. So we do that twice in Shacharis and once in Mincha, where we say Ashrei, and a lot of other things that it hints to also. But what it's saying to us is that a segula, that a person who says Ashrei 3 times a day, he will continue to praise you. That means in the world to come as well. So one of the rewards for saying Ashrei 3 times is that we'll have Eilam Haba. What does it mean, Ashrei Yoshvev Yisecha? Fortunate are those who sit in your household. So it says, the first explanation says this is talking about the Kohanim and the Leviim, who we have to thank them. They're lucky, they work in the Beis HaMikdash. Then it continues and says it's also talking about people who just sit in places and learn Torah. And then it says, anybody who set their eyes on the Beis HaMikdash, those people will be rewarded. And the Gemara says this is talking about shuls and houses of learning. Then the Gemara makes a funny comment. It says it was a custom in the old days that a person would prepare for an hour before they would daven. And explains that is what it means here. So let's understand really what the Gemara is saying to us. The Gemara is saying that the big thing that we need to do is to praise Hashem, right? To daven, to learn, okay? That's the big thing. But that's not what David HaMelech says. David HaMelech says, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha. Praiseworthy or happy are those people who simply sit. Yoshve, they simply sit in Hashem's house, in the homes, in the dwelling places of Hashem. And therefore, says the Gemara, it became customary that if we understand the greatness of being in the house of Hashem, then we wouldn't just rush to daven, but we would sit there, we would spend a bit of time there, and we would prepare ourselves so that by the time we come to daven, we are very ready to face Hashem. It's the custom in Hasidic yeshivas to learn before davening. It's one of the big differences between a Hasidic yeshiva and a Litvish yeshiva is that in the Litvish yeshivas they start their morning early, they daven, and then they learn. And in the Hasidic yeshivas, and that's not just Chabad, they would get up early, learn, and then go and daven. So unfortunately, what came of that custom is that everybody likes to say, oh, Chabad daven's late, right? They use the early time for sleeping in or whatever else they do. That's not the plan and purpose. The plan and purpose is that they first have to learn and make themselves ready to be able to daven. And this is the concept of Ashrei Yosher V'Secha. How happy you'll be when you've prepared yourself to daven properly, because then you will connect to Hashem. You will be happy. You will your neshama will get that connection that David HaMelech is begging for here. Continues in the next pasuk and says, Ashrei Adam Eiz Levach. Happy is the person whose strength he sees in Hashem. He sees his strength in Hashem. Mesilais Bilvavam. He desires to go in the right way. This concept of Mesilais Bilvavam, that he desires to go in the right way, all the commentaries make some kind of mention of saying not just go in the right way, but it should be smooth. And this was something else I was discussing with one of the teachers today. One of our big requests when we ask Hashem to connect with Him is that it should be smooth. We could all connect with Hashem. We can connect with Hashem through difficulties. It's much harder. But we connect with Hashem much better when it's through easy stuff. And this is David HaMelech's prayer. He says, happy is the man who he can turn to Hashem and he can connect to Hashem. Mesilais bilvavam. That his heart it goes smoothly, it goes nicely. I was asking my husband, I was like, can see I was debating this chapter of Tehilim very much last night, and I said to him, why doesn't Hashem make it smooth for everybody? Why does Hashem give some people a harder time, some people an easier time? And my husband told me Hashem gives everybody a smooth time. We choose to see it as smooth or not smooth. So you could all be as great as my husband or not. Okay. But even David HaMelech is davening and asking, Hashem, are we happy when you make life smooth for us? And that's one of our big prayers that we're asking of Hashem. Make things smooth, make things easy for us. It says over Be'emek HaBacha, those are people who sin, arrive in a valley of tears. Mayan Yishisu, they make a fountain. Gam brachos yate meira, but they'll also shower Hashem with thanks. Rashi has a very interesting comment on this pasuk. He says that when things are difficult, we cry, but in the end, at some stage, so we don't know when the end is, we will also thank Hashem. We will understand finally why that which we thought was not smooth is actually smooth, can be. And then David HaMelech gives us instruction, and he says, Yelchu mechayil el chayil. You must go from one holy place to another holy place, from one great thing to another great thing, or from one level of greatness to another level of greatness. Ye'ra el Elokim b'Tzion, and this will till you reach and stand before Hashem in Tzion. And this is a request Hashem, I want to go up and up and up until I reach Zion. But more than that, it's an instruction from David HaMelech to us. We must never ever allow ourselves to be happy with where we are today. If we've reached one level, we have to push ourselves to reach another level. What we did today is good. Tomorrow we have to be better. Yelchu mechayil el chayil. We must go from one good thing to another good thing. We must push ourselves to achieve more and more, to be better and better. And Rashi actually comments. He says, when a person starts seeing what they're doing, their connection with Hashem, when they start seeing and feeling, it actually, that itself motivates us, inspires us to do more. Somebody was telling me today that she hated davening. She always hated davening. She was always looking for an excuse not to daven. And something happened and she needed to daven. She wanted to, and she davened. She doesn't love davening. She didn't love davening at all. But when she came out of there, she felt like that wasn't as bad as I always imagined. And she told me that it's about a year or so later, and she's now realized that she likes davening. She said, what is it? She started feeling that she's connecting. And when you're connecting, you want to connect more. And when you connect more, then you want to connect more. But it doesn't start like that. I don't think there's anybody who just wakes up and says, I love davening. Okay. We all have some level of struggling with it. And if not always, at least sometimes, some days we struggle with davening. And this is, and with connecting. And this is what David HaMelech says. He says, do you want to know the trick of what to do when you're struggling? Daven some more. Yelchu mechayil el chayil. Start from this that you're doing and do more, because you'll see, says Rashi, that doing the davening, and Rashi actually says any mitzvah that you do, whether it's davening, learning, whatever it is, will actually encourage you to do it better again the next time, or to do it more again the next time. David HaMelech asks, he begs, Hashem Elokim tzvakos shim'os v'lasi. Hashem, listen to my prayer. Ha'azino Elokei Yaakov Sela, and listen, God of Yaakov, to me for forever. He comments, and I'm going to just mention very briefly, I'm not even going to look at it inside. He comments about the fact that one day of service of Hashem is better than 1,000 years without. And what I was planning to do was to discuss the concept of time when it comes to service of Hashem, and what we can achieve. So even when we're going through a difficult time, and specifically when we're going through Galus, and it's a hard time, we're being told over and over that what we can do in 1 hour here in this Galus, in this exile, what we can achieve, who we can become, is greater than 1,000 years in Yerushalayim. And he explains in Pasuk Yud Beis, he says, Ki shemesh u'magen Hashem Elokim, that Hashem, even when we are in Galus, even when we're going through difficulties, Hashem is our sun and He is our shield. He looks after us even while we're in Galus. And finishes off this kapitel, Hashem tzvakos, Hashem, Ashrei Adam B'teach Bach. How happy is a person who believes, who trusts in you. So you might recognize that pasuk from Havdalah. So on the whole of Shabbos, we didn't have to worry about our parnasa because we couldn't do anything about it. As soon as we make Havdalah now, our parnasa is our worry again. And so what do we say? We say, Ashrei Adam B'teach Bach. Lucky is the person, happy is the person who trusts in Hashem. And the commentaries tell us that anytime a person is anxious about anything, they should say this line. They should say, Hashem tzvakos ashrei adam b'teach bach. Lucky is the person who trusts in you. And this is one of the ways that we'll calm, that will relieve our anxieties. Because we know that the more we trust in Hashem, the less we have to worry. We have trust in Hashem. And that's where we stop today. Wish you all a good Shabbos.
Thank you so much, Rufki.
Thank you, Rufki.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Thank you. Good
Thank you. Shabbos. God bless.
And you.